what I am suggesting in this tape is that Nazism and Zionism are two sides of the same program, kind of like the Democrats and Republicans, except people were getting killed and rounded up and a lot more serious than we have going on in America. People might be saying, oh, this is unbelievable, this is ridiculous, this is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. It's so against what most of us have always heard. Because I don't know whether this tape will make more angry the Anti-Defamation League of B'nai B'rith or the Aryan Nation, because it destroys the historical official story about Adolf Hitler. And his part of the deal was to begin screaming bloody murder against the Jews from the time he went to power. Basically start to round up the Jews. And the thing that has not been known until recently is that part of the deal was to get as many Jews as he possibly could down to Israel, to help the Zionists, get as many Jews as they could down to Palestine at that time, in preparation for the invasion and takeover of Palestine, which happened in 1948. This book brings to light, through the use of actual historical documents, the disservice that the Zionists did to Jews before and during the Holocaust. And again, he's talking about the top Zionists, or maybe many Zionists who are everyday people who are horrified by this information we're talking about here. I'm sure there are. Also revealed as pro-Zionist propaganda put out by the Nazis, such as a medal for getting Jews to Palestine and a Nazi board game where the object is to move Jews to Palestine. Included are documents from Propaganda Minister Goebbels' newspaper Der Angriff, detailing an SS man's visit to Palestine as the Zionist guest. Any of these things you could go onto Google, google.com, that's a search engine, type in the keywords and it'll bring things up. 150,000 soldiers who were part Jewish in Hitler's army, 1,100 plus officers, 79 high-level officers, and 9 generals who were part Jewish. That's from the research in Hitler's Jewish Soldiers by Brian Mark Rigg. And yet Hitler was trying to kill every Jew in the world. As Führer, Hitler hired a Jew to cook for him. What? This is the guy that's supposed to be wiping out every Jew in the world? He is a half-Jewish lawyer. Now we find as Führer, Hitler hired a Jew to cook for him. One Fraulein Kunde, who was Kunde, who was sent to Hitler by the head of Romania, who, like Hitler, had stomach problems. And when Himmler questioned the suitability of Der Führer's having a Jewish cook and suggested that she be removed, Hitler became furious. And it was written by P.R. Masson, M-A-S-S-O-N, and Borge Jensen. Many of us believe that Hitler's anti-Semitism is merely a blind to cover the fact that he has received powerful support from highly placed financial interests. He says the following names should be scrutinized a little further down: Rothschild, Meyer, Baruch, Schuster, Warburg, Kuhn, Guggenheim, Neymeyer, Schiff, Seif, S-I-E-F-F. These are the names of men or families who move along in the shadows behind governments and wield enormous influence almost unknown to the general public. By Jewish scholar Edwin Black. Strategic alliance between Nazi Germany and America's most powerful corporation. His facts are on target, but you got to read between the lines, because he paints Thomas Watson of IBM as like the most evil guy in the history of the world. He wants you to believe that IBM was a big Watson of IBM was a big anti-Semite, went over to Germany. March 1933, the very month Hitler comes to power, Thomas Watson lands with IBM in Germany and starts helping Hitler catalog every Jew in Germany on IBM punch cards. He's a very brilliant writer. This book is a very intriguing book. I don't agree with his position, but he was a committed Zionist, a Hollywood producer and writer, screenwriter, raising money to help the Irgun, which was like the front force freedom fighters or terrorists, whichever side you're on, of the founding of Israel. And this whole book Ben Hecht has here is a book about a Hungarian Jew who put out a few mimeograph pamphlets about a Jew named Katzner who had cooperated with the Nazis to and betrayed hundreds of thousands of Jews into concentration camps. And Greenwald was so mad about it, he was a man in his 70s or 80s, that he was trying through this little Xerox or mimeograph method in a few cafes and market squares to pass this out in Israel. Well, the Israeli government overreacted and sued him for libel. And it looked like he was going to be railroaded, but he got one of these former Irgun lawyers who had seen Ben-Gurion and seen the leaders of Israel betray the frontline people over and over again. He became his lawyer. Make a long story short, this was big news in Israel in the mid-50s, didn't make it to the rest of the world. The Ergen lawyer traps Kastner on the stand, proves he collaborated with the Nazis, and then Kastner was assassinated by a mugger a few weeks later to get him out of the way. He was the Secretary of State of Israel at that point. To make a long story short, this is a tale. This book explains the top Zionists preventing people from helping the everyday Jews in these countries. After the war, of course, when people were in all these concentration camps or post-concentration camps, the Zionists were all there trying to get them down to Israel. But there was deals made, and the Nazis and the Zionists were working together. Readers will also learn about Adolf Eichmann's account of his personal dealings with the Hungarian Zionist Rezno Kastner. That's the guy in Perfidy by Ben Hecht, who was fingered by the old Jewish guy Martin Grunwald, the Secretary of State of Israel in the 50s. Anyway, Eichmann was cooperating with Rezno Kastner, who was later assassinated in Israel as a Nazi collaborator who betrayed 400,000 Hungarian Jews. The top Zionist Jews are now using the Holocaust as a brickbat against humanity to accomplish all sorts of things. One is, I think, the United States has given Israel over $100 billion. Germany has given Israel over $50 billion. The average German, the average Pole, the average Christian in Europe had nothing to do with the plans for the Holocaust. It was financed, thought of, organized by the top international bankers of both Jewish and non-Jewish: Rothschild, Meyer, Baruch, Schuster, Warburg, Kuhn, Guggenheim, Nehmeyer, Schiff, Seif. But we are saying, without this information we're explaining here, that there's whole pieces that just don't make any sense. You just have to put them out of your mind and say, that doesn't fit, I just can't deal with it, forget it. And that brings us right to the present day, because the founding of Israel leads into all the tensions that we're fighting in the Iraq War that's still going on right now as I do this tape.